Welcome back, everyone. We've got another deep dive lined up, and this time it's all about space. More specifically, a podcast called 10 Mysterious Photos Taken in Space.
Sounds intriguing.
It is. Prepare to be wowed by some really fascinating photos that have sparked quite a bit of debate and speculation.
Well, space photos always seem to do that, don't they? There's something about these images.
Yeah,
They just make you realize how little we actually know about the universe.
exactly. And it's like every time we think we've got a grasp on things, a new photo emerges that just throws everything we thought we knew out the window.
Right. And what I find especially captivating is how these photos um, often lead to multiple explanations, some more plausible than others, of course.
Right, right. It's almost like we're trying to solve a cosmic puzzle, but we're missing half the pieces.
That's a great analogy. And
Yeah.
sometimes, the very act of trying to understand these photos can tell us as much about ourselves as it does about the universe, like how
Yeah.
we approach the unknown and how we interpret what we see.
Absolutely. It's a reflection of our own curiosity and our desire to make sense of the world, or in this case, the universe around us. So, should we jump right into our first mysterious photo?
Let's do it.
All right. First up, we have the Black Knight satellite. This one's a classic. Back in 1998, during a space shuttle mission, NASA captured images of this really strange angular object in Earth's orbit.
Ah, yes, the Black Knight satellite. It's a favorite among space enthusiasts and conspiracy theorists alike. And you have to admit, the image itself is pretty striking.
It is. It definitely doesn't look like anything you'd expect to see just floating around up there. So naturally, a ton of theories have popped up trying to explain what it is.
Of course. And some of them are pretty wild. You've got people who believe it's an ancient alien satellite. Maybe it's been orbiting Earth for thousands of years, silently observing us.
I've heard that one. Some even link it to Nikola Tesla's radio wave experiments way back in 1899. The theory is that maybe he actually picked up signals from the Black Knight.
That's right. It's fascinating how these theories weave together different bits of history and technology. But from a scientific standpoint, is there any real evidence to support a connection between the Black Knight and Tesla's experiments?
That's a good question. It seems like mostly speculation. While Tesla was brilliant, ahead of his time even, there's no concrete evidence that links his work to this object.
Right. And NASA has offered a much simpler explanation, haven't they?
They have. They say it's most likely a thermal blanket that was lost during a spacewalk. Apparently, astronauts Jerry Ross and James Newman lost one during STS-88, the mission that captured those photos.
Ah, okay. So a bit of space debris rather than an alien artifact.
Seems that way. But hey, I think there's still a part of us that wants to believe in the possibility of something more extraordinary?
I completely agree. It's that sense of wonder and possibility that keeps us exploring and asking questions.
For sure. And speaking of wonder, let's move on to our next image, which is truly breathtaking. We're talking about the Crab Nebula. This image is actually a composite pieced together from exposures taken by the Hubble Space Telescope, and it's just a stunning tapestry of color and light.
The Crab Nebula. It's truly one of the most spectacular sights in the night sky. And what makes it even more incredible is knowing that what we're seeing is the remnant of a supernova explosion that happened almost 1,000 years ago.
Wow, 1,000 years ago. Can you imagine witnessing that event? To look up and see a star explode like that?
It would have been an incredible sight. And to think, Chinese astronomers actually recorded witnessing this supernova back in 1054 AD.
That's amazing. It makes you realize that these seemingly distant cosmic events have been shaping the universe for centuries.
Exactly. And the Crab Nebula is a constant reminder of that ongoing process of cosmic creation and destruction.
I think a lot of people might not realize that the name Crab Nebula got a rather interesting origin, too.
Oh, you're right. It's not immediately obvious why it's called that.
Exactly. So the name actually comes from a drawing done by William Parsons, the third Earl of Ross, back in 1840. He observed the nebula through his telescope and thought it looked like a crab.
I guess you had to have a bit of an imaginative eye to see it, but the name stuck, and now we have this beautiful celestial crab gracing our telescopes and textbooks.
And here's the cool thing, you don't even need a super fancy telescope to see the Crab Nebula. On a clear night, if you've got a decent pair of binoculars and you know where to look, you can actually spot it.
That's right. It's a reminder that these seemingly distant wonders of the universe are closer than we sometimes think.
Definitely. Okay, so let's move on to an image that really captured the internet's attention back in 2015. It's the one that became known as the space crab on Mars.
Oh, yeah. That one caused quite a stir, didn't it?
It did. It was a photo sent back by the Mars rover, and it showed a rock formation that looked a lot like, well, a crab.
It really did. I remember seeing it and thinking, wow, that's either a really strange rock or something truly remarkable.
Exactly. And of course, the internet went wild with theories. Lots of people were convinced it was proof of life on Mars. It seemed almost too perfect, a crab scuttling across the Martian surface.
It's a great example of what we call pareidolia. It's that tendency our brains have to see familiar shapes in random patterns, like seeing faces in clouds or, in this case, a crab on Mars.
It's funny how our brains are always trying to make sense of things, even when there's no real pattern there.
It's a survival mechanism, really.
Hmm.
Recognizing patterns helped our ancestors avoid danger and find food. But sometimes it leads us down some interesting paths.
So when it comes to the space crab, what's the more likely explanation? Just a random rock formation, or could there be something more to it?
Well, most scientists believe it's just a rock formation. But I think it's okay to let that little spark of wonder linger.
I agree. After all, that's what keeps us curious and drives us to explore further. Okay, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about a star called Fomalhaut.
Fomalhaut. It's one of the brightest stars in the night sky, and it's been studied extensively by astronomers.
That's right. It's located in the constellation Pisces Austrinus. And what makes it really interesting is its planet, Fomalhaut b, which is sometimes nicknamed Dagon.
Right. Fomalhaut b has sparked a lot of debate because of its incredibly long and elliptical orbit. We're talking about an orbit that lasts about 2,000 years.
Wow, 2,000 years. That's mind-boggling. So what does that kind of orbit mean for the planet itself?
Well, for one thing, it means that Fomalhaut b experiences some pretty extreme temperature swings. At its closest approach to its star, it's about 4.6 billion miles away. But at its farthest point, it's a staggering 27 billion miles away.
That's a huge difference. So it's basically swinging between a cosmic furnace and a deep freeze.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that extreme elliptical orbit is one of the biggest mysteries surrounding Fomalhaut b. Astronomers are still trying to figure out what could have caused it.
Are there any leading theories?
One theory is that there might be another as yet undiscovered planet in the system.
Ah, so another planet's gravity could be influencing Fomalhaut b's orbit.
Exactly. It's like a cosmic tug of war with these massive gravitational forces shaping the planet's path.
That makes sense. It's amazing to think about the intricate dance of these celestial bodies.
It really is. And then there's the matter of Fomalhaut b's brightness. It's much brighter than it should be for a planet of its size.
Oh, why is that?
Well, one theory is that as Fomalhaut b travels through the vast dust ring that surrounds its star, it's constantly colliding with particles. These collisions create a massive reflective dust cloud around the planet.
So it's like a giant cosmic dust storm that's following Fomalhaut b around.
Exactly. And that dust cloud could be what's making it appear so bright to us.
Wow. That's incredible. It's amazing how much is happening out there that we're only just beginning to understand. Okay, so let's take a trip back to Mars for a moment. I want to talk about an image that really captured the world's imagination back in 1976. This was a photo taken by the Viking 1 spacecraft, and it showed what appeared to be a giant humanoid face staring up from the Martian surface. It was like something straight out of a science fiction movie. And of course, it didn't take long for people to start speculating about what it could mean.
Oh yeah, the face on Mars became an instant sensation. You had some folks convinced it was proof of an ancient Martian civilization, while others saw it as just a trick of light and shadow.
Yeah, it definitely fueled the debate about the possibility of life on Mars.
Yeah.
And, it's a classic example of pareidolia, isn't it? Our brains trying to find familiar patterns, even in random formations.
Absolutely. But what's fascinating is that even after NASA released higher resolution images of the area, images that clearly showed the face was just a natural rock formation, some people still clung to the original interpretation.
It's like the image had already taken on a life of its own. It became a symbol of the unknown, of the mysteries that might be hidden out there.
You're right. And it shows how powerful these images can be, how they capture our imagination and inspire us to think beyond what we know.
Speaking of inspiring images, let's jump ahead to the year 2002. The Hubble Space Telescope captured something truly spectacular, a star called V838 Monocerotis. At first, astronomers thought it was a typical nova eruption, but what happened next was anything but typical.
Oh, this one's amazing. Yeah, initially everyone thought it was just a standard nova, a star undergoing a sudden outburst of energy. But then V838 Monocerotis just kept getting brighter and brighter, eventually becoming one of the most luminous stars in our entire galaxy.
Wow, that must have been quite a sight. Do scientists have any idea what caused such an unusual event?
Well, it really stumped them for a while because this outburst didn't fit the typical nova model at all. One theory that emerged was that it might have been a stellar merger, two stars colliding and releasing an enormous amount of energy in the process.
A stellar collision. That's an incredible thought.
It really is. And there was another theory that V838 Monocerotis might have swallowed a planet or two, which could also explain the sudden increase in brightness.
So, a star gobbling up planets. It sounds almost too wild to be true.
It does, but in the vastness of space, almost anything is possible. And the aftermath of that event, whatever it was, left behind this absolutely stunning visual display. It's like a luminous echo of what happened, with glowing dust and gas swirling around the star.
It's a reminder that the universe is full of these dynamic processes constantly changing and evolving.
Exactly. And if you want to see this incredible event unfold for yourself, I highly recommend checking out the time-lapse video on the Hubble Space Telescope's YouTube channel. It's mesmerizing.
I'll definitely have to do that. Okay, so let's head back to Mars for another intriguing image. This time we're looking at a photo taken by the Curiosity rover back in 2015. It seemed to show, of all things, a pyramid on the Martian surface.
Ah, yes. This image, like the face on Mars, sparked a lot of excitement among those who believe in ancient civilizations on other planets. But there's a crucial detail that often gets overlooked when people talk about this pyramid, its size.
Right, I remember this. It turned out that this pyramid was actually only about the size of a soda can, not exactly the massive structure some people were imagining.
Not quite. It's a great example of how important context and perspective are when analyzing these images.
Definitely. It's easy to get carried away with the initial impression, so what do scientists think this pyramid really is?
Well, the most likely explanation is that it's a small volcanic rock that's been shaped and eroded by wind over millions of years.
Ah, so wind erosion could create those sharp pyramid-like angles. It's fascinating how natural forces can sculpt such unusual shapes.
It really is. And while it might not be evidence of an ancient Martian civilization, it's still a cool reminder that even small details on Mars can spark our curiosity.
Speaking of pyramids, let's shift our focus to the moon for a moment. There's a photo from the Apollo 17 mission back in 1972 that has raised some eyebrows. It was initially labeled as blank by NASA, but when you adjust the contrast, you can see a pyramid-like structure in the background.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. And this was from Apollo 17, the last manned mission to the moon. It makes you wonder what else might be hidden in those archives, doesn't it?
It does. It's intriguing to think that there might be things in those old photos that we're only just now noticing. So this lunar pyramid, could it be evidence of an ancient civilization on the moon, or is it just a case of pareidolia, our brains seeing patterns where there are none?
Well, it's important to be cautious with these kinds of interpretations. While it's tempting to jump to extraordinary conclusions, we need to consider all the possible explanations. Could it be an unusual rock formation? Could it be an artifact from one of the Apollo missions? We need more data to say for sure.
I agree. It's a good reminder to approach these images with a healthy dose of skepticism, even when they seem to suggest something truly remarkable. Okay, let's head back to Mars for one last image. This one caused quite a stir back in 2004 when NASA's Spirit rover captured something that looked like a figure walking across the Martian terrain.
Ah, yes. The Bigfoot on Mars photo. This one really captured the public's imagination. You had people comparing it to ancient statues, speculating about a lost Martian civilization. It was a field day for theories.
It's amazing how a single image can spark such widespread speculation. So what's the most likely explanation for this Martian figure? Was it really a sign of life on Mars or something more mundane?
Well, skeptics were quick to point out that, given the rover's proximity to the object, the figure was probably only a few inches tall. So we're most likely looking at a small, oddly shaped rock, not a towering Martian being.
Another case of our brains trying to make sense of the unfamiliar. But hey, I think it's great that these images get people thinking and talking about space exploration. It sparks our curiosity and reminds us that there's still so much out there to discover.
I couldn't agree more. Even if it turns out to be just a rock, it's a rock on another planet. And that's pretty cool in itself.
Speaking of cool things, let's wrap up our deep dive with a truly spectacular image. It's a composite picture from the Hubble Heritage Team showing a nebula called Menzel 3. It's located about 8,000 light-years away in the Norma constellation.
Menzel 3. I'm not familiar with that one. What makes it so special?
Well, it's often called the Ant Nebula, and once you see the image, you'll understand why. It bears an uncanny resemblance to a giant ant in space.
Wow, a giant space ant. That's amazing.
It's incredible how these nebulae can take on such intricate and recognizable shapes.
It really is. And the structure of the Ant Nebula is still somewhat of a mystery. Some scientists believe that those fiery protrusions we see in the image are caused by powerful magnetic fields emanating from the dying star at its center.
It's like the stars having this kind of dramatic last hurrah, putting on a show for the cosmos.
You could say that? And then there's another theory that suggests it could be a binary star system where the dying star has actually engulfed its companion.
Whoa, a star swallowing another star? That's intense.
It is. It's a reminder that even in the depths of space, these incredible stories of creation, destruction, and transformation are constantly playing out.
You know, as we've been going through these photos, it's really struck me how they kind of challenge our perceptions of what's possible.
I agree. They force us to confront the sheer vastness and complexity of the universe and to realize how much we still don't know.
It's like we start with these simple photographs, but they open up this Pandora's box of questions.
That's a great way to put it. It's like each image is a puzzle piece, and we're trying to assemble this grand picture of the universe, but it's a picture that's constantly changing as we learn more.
And sometimes those puzzle pieces don't quite fit, or they lead us to even more questions than answers.
Right. And that's the beauty of scientific exploration. It's not always about finding those definitive answers, but about embracing the mystery, the unknown.
It's about pushing the boundaries of our understanding, constantly refining our picture of the cosmos.
Exactly. And these images serve as a powerful reminder that the universe is full of surprises, wonders, and phenomena that we're only beginning to grasp.
So, what's the takeaway from all of this? I think it's a reminder to stay curious, to never stop questioning what we think we know.
Couldn't agree more. These images are a testament to the power of human curiosity and our innate desire to make sense of the world around us, or should I say, the universe around us.
They encourage us to look beyond the familiar, to challenge our assumptions, and to embrace the possibility that there's always more to discover out there.
Beautifully said. And perhaps most importantly, they remind us that even in the face of the vast unknown, there's a sense of wonder and beauty that connects us all.
Well said. Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into these mysterious photos from space. We hope you enjoyed this journey with us and that it's left you with a renewed sense of awe and wonder for the incredible universe we call home.
And until next time, keep looking up and never stop exploring the mysteries that await us out there.